there, this is Christy. Welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. I am your friendly online speech language pathologist, and today I'm here to talk with you about picky eating. Actually, we're here to talk about supportive environments, creating a supportive environment, and a supportive environment includes optimal nutrition. This is a very tricky topic for many of our kids who are on the autism spectrum or who have other developmental delays or disorders, because eating is such a tricky issue for so many of our kids. Many times because of sensory issues or extreme food preferences, our kids do not get the kind of nutrition that is going to feed their brains. We're going to talk about that today. So please stick around and see what magnificent things you might learn. First, I would like to say, please get a medical professional involved if you are at all concerned about your child's development, especially regarding eating, because we need nutrition to live, and we need good nutrition to function well. I also want to say that there are many, many different things that could be going on if your child is an extreme picky eater. Perhaps it is simply lack of exposure, a lack of willingness to change up particular routines around meal times. Perhaps it is simply a sensory issue. We can work on all of these things, and it doesn't require surgery or any sort of major medications. But there are things that we can't fix in that manner, that we need medical assistance to treat. There are swallowing issues sometimes. The muscles are not working properly for a child to swallow properly. And this is why certain foods might not be acceptable to the child. There could be a food allergy that causes the child to refuse a certain food. There may be posture difficulties or muscle weaknesses in the other parts of the body, the core or the back, that mean that the child can't have the right posture for eating successfully. I, as an online speech language pathologist, I can't address any of those issues for you. So please get a local feeding therapist as soon as you can. Please don't wait until your child is 5 and all he's willing to eat is French fries. There are a lot of years of development in there that can't be fueled on French fries. And of course, they have their own negatives, even though they are delectable. Even if your child is 5 and only eating French fries, there's still progress to be made. As we're beginning this time together today, I would like to tell you a little bit about my own story and one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about good nutrition. It's because I got sick. I was diagnosed with a variety of different things throughout my young adulthood, and then the big kabloom on me was that I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. This is one of the inflammatory bowel diseases. It's not like IBS. It actually causes ulcers and damage to the inside of your intestines, my intestines. Now, the drugs to treat this were quite scary. They can damage the kidneys, they can damage the liver, they raise your chances of cancer, they lower your immunity, and I really didn't want to have to take those medications if I didn't have to. So I did a lot of research and cobbled together for myself, with the help of doctors, a plan that did require a large shift in my lifestyle and in my eating habits. I turned to a completely plant-based diet that was anti-inflammatory and filled with lots of micronutrients, because micronutrients feed our brain and they help us to heal. And I'm happy to say that that diagnosis was 10 years ago. I never needed medication for that disease, even though It's usually a very serious diagnosis. And in my last colonoscopy, yes, we're talking about colons today. In my last colonoscopy, there was no sign that I have Crohn's or that I ever had Crohn's. So this plan has really worked for me. I understand that Crohn's disease is a very different diagnosis from a developmental disorder, from autism or other similar illnesses. However, inflammation is common to pretty much all illnesses, and neural inflammation of your brain, is a thing that happens in autism. So if we can decrease inflammation, if we can flood the brain and the rest of the body with optimal nutrition, we have already seen emerging studies that show that symptoms of autism can be decreased. Now, I am not talking about changing the wiring of a person's brain to mean that they don't have autism anymore. I don't think we can change brain wiring. We can change how people function, and we can help their bodies be well supported so that they function with more ease and calmness in the world. And I think we all want that for our children and for everyone else we love. And in fact, we should want that for all human beings and all animals across the globe and throughout outer space. So that is my story. This is why I believe that nutrition is so important, because it has enabled me to heal from a very serious and often devastating disease. I'm pretty sure if I went back to my old way of eating, my disease would come back. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to carry on eating the way that I do now because it makes me feel better, basically. It's worth the inconvenience because of the incredible difference in how I feel and how I function. And I mean this to encourage you because it is a little challenging to help our kids eat well, especially those who are resistant to healthy foods. And our kids don't resist cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets. They resist fruit and vegetables and beans and whole grains. They resist healthy foods. And there are a variety of reasons for this. The first reason being fiber. Kids find it difficult to consume fiber. Another reason is texture. Texture is a serious problem for many of our kids who have sensory issues. And we're going to work on that in the scope of this video. Of course, there is also taste. I don't know if you ever paid attention to this, but most junk food has a very bland taste. It's salty, it's fatty, but it doesn't have a very specific taste. It doesn't have a zing like celery. It doesn't have a bitterness like greens or broccoli. And some of our kids have difficulty getting accustomed to those different flavors. And we're going to work on that as well in this process. I would like to say right up front here that there are certain things that should not be in any child's diet, if at all possible. And if a child is exposed to these things, it should be in absolutely itsy bitsy infinitesimal amounts. And those are food colorings, artificial or natural, and flavorings, and emulsifiers. This is a tricky one because emulsifiers are in almost every processed food. An emulsifier is a thickener, something that makes a product thicker. So for example, guar gum, xanthan gum, carrageenan or carrageenan, depending on how you prefer to pronounce that. These things disrupt the gut barrier in many people, perhaps all people. And most kids who are on the autism spectrum have very sensitive guts to begin with. So that's not something we need to be adding to them. We do know that food colorings, specific food colorings particularly, especially particular food colorings, are connected to children's behavior dysregulation. Kids are not able to manage themselves as well when they consume these particular food colorings. In most other countries, these type of additives are not allowed in food, and they should not be allowed here. Since they are allowed, the only way we can get them out of the food system is if we stop buying products that have these things in them. So let's all do our part and buy things that are healthy. Mostly things that don't have packaging or an ingredients list at all. We can read the ingredients list and make sure there's nothing iffy in there, or we can get stuff that's a whole food that doesn't have an ingredients list. Next, which foods should we focus on including? Assuming that you are in the waiting process for getting a feeding therapist on board, you've talked to your insurance and they're getting you hooked up with somebody, you have a referral to your doctor to get your child assessed, and in the meantime, you would really like some thoughts about how you can support development in the area of a wide variety of foods for your child to help his or her brain develop the best way possible. Assuming that's the case, we're going to talk through a method of presenting objectionable foods to your child in a way that these foods will become less objectionable. The first thing we need to think about is, how do we pick out a food to try? And what I'm going to introduce to you is a book called How Not to Die. If you have not heard about this book, it's life-changing. It goes through the 16 different reasons, top reasons why people die, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, these kind of things, and how we can support our bodies so that maybe we won't die from that thing. It's fascinating. And then at the end, he introduces his top 12 things that he calls Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. And here they are. What I would do if I were you is I would look at Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, maybe get the book from your library or look him up on YouTube. I will put links to his lectures on this book down below, and he also has a Daily Dozen app that you can use if you would like to. It's totally free of charge. Of course, the library is free of charge as well, so you can take a peruse through this book without it costing you anything. His Daily Dozen is a list of the foods that are well supported by science to be the most important for having a healthy body and not dying. The first one is beans. Kids have difficulty with beans sometimes. The texture, the flavor, the mushiness, or the not mushy enough, they can be tricky. Second thing, berries. Berries can be a difficult thing for kids. They have little seeds, or they're too colorful, or they're too flavorful, or they're too sour, or too sweet. Almost everything on this healthy foods list can be tricky for some of our kids with picky food issues. So we're going to pick out one. I decided we're going to talk about the banana today. Many kids have a problem with bananas. They're pretty fragrant when they are ripe, like this one is. They are mushy. They are very flavorful, very sweet. They are kind of a weird texture sometimes. This one's getting slimy because I had it in the fridge and now I don't. So she's getting a little bit of a sliminess on her. All of these things are things that can cause trouble for some of our kids. But we're going to talk about the banana today. I picked the banana. The banana is considered other fruits, and it's the best idea to get 3 other fruits per day. You can also consider the fact that when you cook food for your child, there are certain things that you want to try to get in to every meal or every day when you cook. And you can look at the Daily Dozen, of course, add more of those things in there. You can also keep in mind something from another doctor I really respect, Dr. Joel Fuhrman. He wrote Eat to Live and a whole bunch of other really great books, and he talks about the G-bombs. G-bombs are greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And these are things that every human being should be consuming every single day. So if you are making a casserole, add some onions. If you are making a salad, add some hemp seeds on top. It's as easy as that. So keep those things in your mind. I also recommended this book very heavily. He's a little bit strict, and I do not follow him as completely as some. Next, we're going to talk about how to prime our child for this introductory process. One of the things we want to do to prime our kids is read books about healthy foods, about fruits and vegetables mainly. I have some great books that help prime kids. One of them is called How Are You Peeling? The goal in this phase is to introduce healthy foods in a way that they're not as triggering because they're not right up in the child's face. We can look at the fruits and vegetables. We don't have to eat it right away. It's kind of a ramp into accepting this as an actual food item. This one not only has pictures of fruits and vegetables in it, but it also talks about social emotional skills. It talks about feelings. How is this red bell pepper feeling? Maybe skeptical? Maybe you're feeling skeptical as we are discussing this, that any of these very minor techniques would actually work. But they do. They just need a lot of consistency. And that's what's hard for most of us because our lives are busy and we'd rather have some drug that we could give to our kids that would just make them accept all foods. Sadly, there's no such drug. It does not work. I also recommend this book. It's called Vegan Lunchbox. I'm only presenting plant-based options because plant-based foods are anti-inflammatory, and I personally have an ethical stance against causing harm. So I don't eat animals or animal products. However, you can find examples of these with whatever kinds of food you prefer to eat. You just have to do a little more research than taking the option that I'm providing for you here. This book is really cute because it has pictures of different ways to assemble healthy meals. And you can look through the book, you can talk about the foods. Maybe someday you might like cucumbers. We can make a cucumber sandwich, that kind of thing. You don't have to force the issue. You're not picking out recipes to make at this point. You're just looking at the pictures. I also recommend you looking at the following two books, which are two of my very favorite cookbooks. This one's called Plant You, and it has a picture of every single recipe. Let me find some of the smoothies because they're so pretty. Well, pancakes. Who doesn't like pancakes? We'll go with pancakes. Pancakes. So blueberry pancakes. And it has a list at the top of the ingredients. So you know there are blueberries, you know there's maple syrup, and lemon. Yum! So you can look at all the ingredients and say, wow, these things all go together to make these delicious pancakes. Isn't that fascinating? Now this is assuming that your child is interactive at this point and that your child is able to sit down and have a conversation with you about food. If that's not the case, we're not going to do this step. We're just going to look at pictures of fruits and vegetables. We'll go to the grocery store and we will look at them and talk about them as much as possible, and we'll find lots of books that have pictures of fruits and vegetables in them. We also, this one's a really, really, really good one. Very simple recipes and very tasty. In fact, this is mostly for kids. These are zucchini sticks, but they're like fish sticks with a sort of a tartar sauce on the side. Also, Kiki has a YouTube channel where she shows you how to cook a lot of these things, which I think is very helpful. And Carly, who wrote this book, has a YouTube channel that is very good with very quick and easy cooking hacks for making healthy foods. There's also this book, which is called Eat More Colors. And I think it's absolutely adorable. And it's gonna make kids want to eat more healthy foods because it's so cute, and it tells the kid which color, what each different nutrient does for their body. So Here's what an orange fruit does in our body. Here's what a red fruit does in our body. And you can even plan your approach around particular colors of food that seem to strike an interest for your child. Now that we have picked one food item that we're going to introduce, and we have primed our child by talking a lot, by looking at pictures of bananas, maybe we even tried to plant a banana tree, or we got a banana tree, maybe we just read books about a banana. Now we're going to actually use the banana for some things, not as food. We're going to use the banana to paint with. We're going to use the banana as a toy. Hello, can you hear me? We're going to maybe use it as a boat or as a person. We're going to use the banana in as many different non-food ways as we can. You can make a bird feeder out of a banana. You put a stick in there, you roll it in birdseed, peanut butter, and then birdseed, and then you put it in the freezer. And then you hang it from the stick outside, and the birds will come and eat it. And it's fascinating, and we've played with the banana. The banana is becoming less offensive with every activity that we do. Every time we talk about it, we can talk about our friend, the banana. Sounds kind of silly, but when you start to think of a food as your friend rather than as your enemy, it really becomes less of a problem. It does start to feel like a friend. Also, paint the banana. Take a canvas, take some paints, and paint a picture of bananas. Use some old Renaissance pictures as your guide. Find some paintings online of bananas and try to copy them. Do everything you can that relates to bananas. Take pictures of bananas with your camera or with your phone. Your child can take pictures. Color them, make them artsy by adding filters. Do everything that you can that's artsy with a banana or that's practical with a banana, such as the bird feeder idea. Keep on working with the banana as an ingredient in things other than recipes. Our next step is we're going to explore the item itself and talk about it. So now we're not using the banana as a tool, we're thinking about the banana itself. So we're going to sniff it. It smells kind of vanilla-y, kind of like pudding a little bit. We're going to touch it. It's very smooth. It's kind of wet and a little bit slimy up here on this brown part. We're going to listen. Can we hear anything? We're going to make sure that we experience it with as many senses as possible. And then we're going to talk about it. We can smash it and see what happens. Smash it with a fork, smash it with a potato masher, smash it in various different ways. If you can, get your children to smash it with their fingers or with their feet. Put it in a bucket and stamp on it. Put it on the sidewalk and stamp on it. The more you can get your child to experience the texture of the item on their skin and with their nose, these are the two senses that are usually most set off by foods. So the texture in your mouth is, our mouths are very, very sensitive, more sensitive than our skin. So if we experience it first with our skin and get used to it, and then with our nose and get used to it, then when we eventually try it in our mouth, it won't be so terrible because we will already be a little bit used to it. We call this exposure therapy. We're not forcing the child to do anything. We're presenting the item in lots of different non-threatening ways and letting the child experience it so that the child's sensory system becomes less hypersensitive. If your child can't touch it with her hands yet, put on gloves. She's still getting the texture even though she's not feeling it directly on her skin. And then transition out of the gloves to bare hands. Same thing with feet. If you have rubber sandals, then try stamping on it with rubber sandals, rolling over it with a rolling pin, and then eventually maybe stamping on it with bare feet. Usually the more fun you make it and the more playful, the less threatening it is. If your child is a child who likes to write things, then write an introduction to the banana. A banana is a yellow fruit, or yellow and brown in this case. It smells like vanilla pudding. It's kind of squishy, and the riper it gets, the more squishy it gets. The banana is my friend. It helps me because it has lots of vitamin whatever. We can look up all these things. The more we talk about our friend the banana, the less threatening it becomes. Our next step is to transition the item to become a food item. I want to repeat here, we're never forcing the child to eat anything. There's no forcing involved. We can't coerce a child into healthy eating. It's not how it works. We want to put it on her plate at every single meal though. Not that I know this feels a little wasteful if she doesn't eat it, but a banana is one of the cheapest foods out there. That's why she's smiling, because she's healthy and inexpensive. So you want to put at least 3 slices of banana on her plate with every meal, because this is additional exposure. You don't have to eat it, I'm just putting it on your plate. But I do think you should try some because bananas are delicious. And remember, they help our brains and they help our guts to work right. Bananas are pretty amazing. I can't wait until you get to try banana because you're going to love it. We talk about the banana in a healthy way, but we don't push the child to eat. We don't try to force the child to eat the banana, but we keep on exposing the child. A lot of kids need 20, 30, 50 exposures to any particular food before they're willing to actually eat it. We worked on these exposures in non-food ways, non-food situations, and now we're working on it in an actual food situation. It's there, it's sitting on my plate. If the child won't accept it on her plate, then put it on her tray. Have a sliced up banana on the table very close to her plate. So she's getting used to having banana nearby as a food item, not just as a toy or an art project. We also want to consider to, as we're working on this, change the texture of the banana. We can mash it up in a smoothie because kids don't mind that. My nieces supposedly don't like beans, but if we mash them up into refried beans, just mashed beans, they love them. When we put them in a smoothie, they love it because they can't taste it. So change the texture. Also change the taste. Put peanut butter on the banana. Make the banana into nice cream by freezing it and then putting it in your food processor with cocoa powder and mixing it up. It makes a ice cream like chocolate ice cream without any bad ingredients in it. It's delicious and I eat it a lot in the summer. Make sure your child sees other members of the family enjoying the bananas and eating the bananas and talking about how much they like banana. Although it's fine if some family members don't like banana. There are some things we just aren't going to like. That's okay. What we want is we want to find the widest range of things that a child is willing to eat as possible. My husband still will not eat broccoli. That's okay. He will eat other cruciferous vegetables like cabbage because something from the cruciferous vegetable family is really important for our bodies and our brains and our nerves. So we're able to work around it because we can eat something else from the same category. So if your child doesn't like apples, maybe he'll like pears. Continue to present the item over and over and over for at least a month before you say it's not working. Go through all these steps and keep it up, because I have never met a child who actually, we went through all these steps and there was no movement at all in the child's willingness to accept the item. There's always been, so far, some sort of progress. And that's what we're looking for. We don't have to have complete success, that the child eats absolutely everything that her siblings eat, or absolutely every food that's presented to her. But we want to, if at all possible, get close to the daily dozen. So we want our child to be eating some kind of beans in some fashion. Maybe it's like me. I don't mind beans at all. I like them and I try to eat them with every meal. But when I was first getting used to eating beans, when I was still pretty sick, I put them in a smoothie because, number one, I couldn't tell they were in there. They made the smoothie creamier. They added protein, they added folate, and you can't taste them. So any child who doesn't like beans, smoothies are a great way to go. I like black beans best. I also like red lentils. I do not like white beans, and I do not like green or brown lentils. I'm just not going to eat those. I like red lentils. I like black beans. I'm going to eat those the most. So in every category, there is something that you can work around. It doesn't have to be your child eating every possible food under the sun in order to be healthy. This was a lot of information today, and I want to repeat again, I've probably said this 3 times already, please get professionals involved. You need more people on your team in order to help your child be healthy. And feeding is an issue that's really important to child development. Kids can get deficient in lots of different ways and lots of different things that we don't even think about. So please make sure to find a feeding therapist, find a nutritionist, have a good medical doctor. Make sure that you're dealing with the child's sensory issues. Make sure that the child's swallowing is okay. Make sure that your child has good positioning. These professionals will be able to help you assess if there's anything additional going on that might be leading to some of this picky eating. If it is simply a lack of exposure and the techniques that I have mentioned can help, then they will help. And if there's something additional going on besides that, then you will have the support that you need to get those issues addressed as well. I hope this video was helpful to you. Tune in next time for more information about how to create supportive environments to help prevent challenging behavior. Have a great day. See you soon.